So my name is Becca Getson. I am the Sexual Assault Response Coordinator. I'm also the Deputy Title IX Coordinator for students, and that is for all campuses. So all of our campuses, I respond to all student reports. So if we receive any reports of domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, or stalking, and there's a student victim survivor, I'll be the person that responds to that student and do that initial outreach. So mandated reporting basically means that I need to report to the university and potentially the police as well. So I have certain requirements through Title IX and federal law about what I should and should not be reporting. So what that looks like is when a student reports to me, that means that I report to the university, and I also report to the police if we need to report out for our statistical purposes as well. So if someone wants to reach out in terms of confidential, one of the first things I'll talk to them about is who those confidential people are, where they can go on campus to access resources and support without making a report to the university. So confidential resources on campus and off campus include our student counseling services, and that's on all of our campuses. So we have a student counseling services on our Oxford campus. We also have counseling services on Middletown and Hamilton campuses as well. So those are all confidential. Health services as well is confidential. Any medical professional who's acting as a medical professional are all confidential. Off campus, there's some really great advocacy organizations that are also confidential. So Women Helping Women, Dove House, Center for Family Solutions, there's a whole bunch of those that you can access to obtain some information and access those services without making an official report either to the university or to the police. So we get reports from everywhere, whether it's the police, whether it's MUPD or OPD. We get reports. People will just walk into my office. They'll just call me. They'll email me. We'll get reports from Residence Life. We'll get reports from coaches, campus security authorities. So it's really across the board and kind of how that person feels comfortable reaching out. Like I said, in terms of best way to contact me, it really depends upon the person. Sometimes finding me in my office can be a little difficult, but email, in person, phone, all those ways work. So whatever works best for that individual to reach out. Yes, so when a victim survivor, or we receive knowledge of, because it may not come from the victim survivor themselves, when we receive knowledge of that, the first thing that happens is if it's one of these offenses, the report will get sent to me, and then I will reach out to that victim survivor. So I'll do that direct contact for the university. And I'll reach out, provide information, resources, and be that initial point of contact to say, okay, where do you want to go next? What do you want to have happen next? In terms of if they report to the police, they'll be followed up with a police detective or the police investigation. And those are two separate processes as well. First question asked is, how are you doing? This is something that has happened to them, and I want to make sure the first thing that they're safe. I ask them that before if they are meeting with me for the first time, we've communicated over email. I'll try to ask them that first off. To see if they're safe and what we can do to help them get safe if they don't feel safe. So that's our first priority, is making sure that student feels safe and that the campus is safe. So from there we look at what accommodations we might be able to put into place. I tell them they can share as much or as little about what happened to them as they want to. So if they want to tell me the whole narrative about what happened, they can. If they don't want to, I'm not going to force them to. It's kind of up to them about what they want to share. The more information I have, the more that we can kind of help put them in the right direction as to what resources they may need. But it's completely up to them what they want to share with us. And then from there, my focus is on what we can do to kind of help them support and recovery, and then answer any questions about what options and resources they can have moving forward as well. So I'll occasionally have students that come in and say, I don't know what happened to me. I don't know if this qualifies. More often than not, by the time they reach me, normally they are aware. Normally they've talked to somebody else and will get to me in some form or fashion. But I will occasionally have students that'll come in and say, I don't know if this qualifies or not. And then we'll talk about it. We'll talk through what happened. We'll talk about what definitions are, the fact that definitions are different through the university and through the criminal code. Something may be criminally a conduct, and also a university code of conduct violation, or it may not be criminal, but it is a university code of conduct. So we'll discuss all those kind of things if they have questions about it. Normally when they get to me though, the first priority is about what do they need? What are their immediate needs right now? So the big four that we do, that's what I talk about, is residential, academic, working, and transportation. So those are kind of the big four topics that we discuss. Whether or not they are living in the same residence hall as the accused is, whether or not the victim survivor feels comfortable or safe where they are, even if they aren't living in the same hall as the accused. Academically, if they are struggling in classes, if they need tutoring, if they're in the same classes as that accused is. We'll look at all those kind of things. Are they running into any transportation issues? Are they not feeling safe on campus after hours or during hours? And then working as well. Where are they working that might put them in greater danger if they're feeling unsafe there, things like that. And then we open it up to them to say, what haven't we covered, right? So these are the four that I really want to make sure and touch upon, but what haven't we covered? And usually through the discussion of those four, we usually get to the majority of what some of those things are. But then we also leave that open for what have we missed, right? What else do you need that we haven't covered just yet? So for any of the accommodations I just talked about, they do not need to go through any process for us to be able to do any of those things. Now for us to be able to change someone else's academics, we had to have some process. So for us to pick up the accused or put a no contact against the accused, we have to have some kind of pending process for that to happen because of the accused due process rights. However, we can always move the victim survivor if they want to move. We can talk to the victim survivor's professor and say, these are some things that are going on, or do a more general outreach and say, hey, this student is struggling. Let's kind of help them out a little bit in terms of what we can look at doing. It also depends on the time of year of the semester too. If we're looking at this happened, they come and they need help that first week, it'd be very easy to change classes, provided there's multiple sessions. So it really depends on that individual's circumstances and where we are. With a week left in the semester, sometimes it's a matter of, I just want to get through the semester and we will deal with things after that. So it really depends upon where that survivor is in each individual circumstances. We'll at least discuss there are these options available, and I'll also give them literature on what that is so they can walk away and take it and kind of review it on their own as well. But in that first meeting, I try to go over that unless they just aren't ready to go there yet. So with that information, what I do is kind of provide what does it look like? What do those options look like? What are the differences in the processes? What do the timelines look like generally? Kind of what are those kind of various things rather than having them go out and do that research on their own unless they want to do that. So we'll review generals unless they want to go into more specific. Absolutely, I will always ask them if they want to do any kind of follow-up. So if I either hear back from a student or I don't hear back from them, I'll always kind of do that follow-up to check in and see how they are. The exception to that, if they tell me, nope, I don't want to meet again, I don't want to hear from you again, and that's okay. That's completely up to them. If they do that and make sure that they've got the resources, I also let them know that they can always come back to me. So just because they say I don't want to meet now does not mean that in months or years that they can't come back and say, I would like some help or assistance or to talk about it. So that the door is always open. Some common themes that we tend to see. One of the big ones is Miami's not that big, right? There are friend circles involved. More often than not, these are people that we know. Accused are oftentimes people that we know, that we care about, that we were dating, whatever that may be. There's a relationship there. So between being in friend circles or just having to see them or having to go through a process, there's a lot of different reasons why. So the fact that universities are small places, the fact that they are or continue to be friends, the fact that a process is not easy. There's also school to consider too. So you're trying to do schoolwork and then trying to do all these other things on top of it. That's a lot to go through and try to work through everything. But it's important for them to know that that's available and it's an option to them, but that it's not on them to do that if they don't want to. It's not their responsibility to move forward through something unless they are ready and willing to do that. I would want to tell them that they're not alone, that there are resources in whatever form they might need. So whether that is the confidential that they can access and answer those questions or talk about what happened or talk about the fact that it's not their fault, that these things have happened to them, and no matter what they might be blaming themselves for, it's not their fault that it happened to them. And that there are those resources, right? That they are not alone and that there is help that is available.